Hey guys, good morning. Today is another Thursday and we are another episode. This yet another episode of our weekly webinars. And today we are talking about a very interesting topic which is called in the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. So, I know there's been a lot of talk around this topic and I just thought it is important that I bring it to my audience and then speak to you, go through what is really in this bill, and we'll go through the pros and cons and see what's in it for all of us. So the first thing I want to tell you is that there's been questions around, is this really an Inflation Reduction Act? Is it really an act that is aimed at reducing inflation? The first question I want us to ask ourselves is, what is inflation? Inflation is basically the increase in prices. So we have increase in prices of commodities over time. So we all know that for the past year, we have been crying about prices. Prices have been up, gas prices, food prices, rent prices, everything has gone up. That is what you call inflation. We have been in an inflationary situation for most of the year. And what is the cause of that? The cause of this inflation was, one, we have had a lot of money being splashed into the economy over the last few years because those were COVID relief funds that were put into the economy. When you have more money in supply than goods are, there's going to be an inflation. That was number one. Number two is we've also had issues with production of certain commodities since the breakup, since we started with the war in Russia and Ukraine. Prices of commodities have gone up. Gas prices went up, commodity prices went up, and those are elements of inflation. So when we are in this inflationary situation, what is there? What can we do to reduce the inflation, the amount of inflation? That's why we have the Inflation Reduction Act. Let's see if this act actually goes to reduce inflation. So what the act tries to do is, the act was really there. There were three aspects of the act. Number one aspect of that act was with what they call combating climate change. Climate change was a big portion of the act. The second one has been they're trying to reduce health costs. So there are certain elements of the bill that are aimed at reducing health costs. And then the third part, which is the most important for us as accountants, is going to be taxation and compliance. We'll talk about those three separately and we'll see how they impact us. So number one, healthcare. Healthcare, the big thing about healthcare is that Medicare is trying to reduce prices. What have they put in that bill? They've said that over the next 10 years, every year, the HHS will reduce the prices of medication, of all these prescription drugs, either at the pharmacy or at the medical doctor's office. So they will go in different stages. The first stage is that they would reduce the prices of 10 drugs within the next couple of years. After, they will increase every year to 15 drugs. Then after, they will go to 20 drugs, and that is a major part of the bill. The second part of the bill is that they are going to put an inflation cap. So if you are a pharmacy, you are a producing company, you are a drug seller, you cannot increase the price of any prescription drug more than the rate of inflation. So if you increase the prices of the drug by anything more than inflation, you are going to be imposed penalties by the HHS. The process of doing that, it's not clear. It's going to be specified. The third thing, which is still in healthcare, is that they are limiting the out-of-pocket expenses, out-of-pocket costs for our seniors. What they are saying is that anybody out there, your limit, any senior out there who is on Medicare Part D, the limit of out-of-pocket expenses for medication would be $2,000 per year. So those of us who have family, who have relatives who are suffering from cancer, from any type of diseases, we cannot spend more than $2,000 on medication per year on the patient. That is what this is all about. Again, remember, We are just giving the summary of this bill. This bill is over 1,000 pages. Any part of this bill has a lot of details. So we are just giving the summary so that we understand what's in the bill. The next part is free vaccines, free vaccination for seniors. Currently, what is there is that COVID drugs are free, COVID vaccines are free for seniors. Flu and pneumonia is free. But what it is saying is that we are going to provide every vaccine for free for seniors. That is part of the bill. Affordable Care Act subsidies. You know that the subsidies for Affordable Care Act were to terminate in 2022, according to the Build Back Better, according to the American Rescue Plan. What this bill is saying is extending Obamacare, is extending Affordable Care Act premium subsidies up to 2025. Then cheaper insulin. They are saying that insulin costs will be limited to $35 per month. Currently, the average is $450. They are trying to reduce that to $25 to $35 per month. So that is it. That is the summary I take from health, from the changes to the healthcare. The other big change comes in climate change, and this is where I see that there is going to be also a significant impact on inflation. There's going to be a lot of money being put into climate change. What does that mean? What does that mean? Areas such as electric vehicles tax credit. You can get, currently you still get up to $7,500 if you bought an electric vehicle, and you get up to $4,000 if it was a used vehicle. But what they are saying is that it was going to end with the previous bill. It was going with the rescue plan. It was going to end this, I think it was this year or next year. They have extended it for 10 more years. So within the next period, next 10 years, you have access to all this credit for electric vehicles. However, the one thing I see as a drawback here is that they are reducing the cap. So the income limit on who it can get this credit will be reduced from 300,000. That is not a good thing for me. Another change I see is credit. There's going to be tax credit on funding for investments in environmental justice communities. Some people are asking me, what is environmental justice communities? Environmental justice communities, these are neighborhoods surrounded by freeways, industrial facilities, small towns. You remember the Flint in Michigan? A couple of years ago, there was this poisoning of water in Michigan. Those type of areas are called environmental justice communities. And if you invest in those areas, they have put $60 billion of funding available for anybody who is investing in all these type of environmental justice communities. And if you also, there's a 10-year consumer credit, tax credit, that will bring down the cost of heat pumps, of rooftop solar, of electric HVACs and water heaters. So 30% tax credit is available for you for the next 10 years. Climate change again. We're talking of $30 billion for a production tax credit for wind, solar, and that is significant investment have been put in all these facilities. $4 billion in additional draft funding, 27 in so-called clean energy accelerator. All these things are all there for anyone who is in the space, and even for those who are not in this space and who are within those income brackets. There is every incentive for us to invest in renewable energy because we get all these tax credits. We get funding for those who want to invest their money in climate, in renewable energy and things like that, in anything that has to do with renewable energy. So the big part, another part of this was, how do you fund all this investment? And that's where the tax come in. So they are looking at the taxation as being the big part of those expenditures. The big part of the investment will come from taxation. Expectation is that $258 billion over a decade will come from taxation to meet these commitments that have been set in this bill. One of the big areas 15% minimum tax on book profit. Who is affected? Any company that is making less than more than $1 billion in net profits. This is not for you and me. This is for the big boys. The big boys who are making more than $1 billion in profit, they will have now a minimum tax on their book profit of 15%. Remember, 52% of Fortune 500 companies did not pay a dime in taxes in 2021. So this imposes a minimum tax on them. That is on their book profit. The second thing is that there's a 1% excise tax on companies' stock buybacks. For companies, again, this is for big companies. They generally, when they make a lot of money, they try to buy back the stock so that they don't give access to the smaller people like you and I to have access to those stocks. They buy back those stocks. And the effect of buying back stocks is that it increases the stock price. So now, not everybody has access to those stocks. Most companies, most of these very profitable companies, if you look at their stock prices, they are very high. Why? Because they bought back the stock price. Many of them have been buying back stock. When they buy back stock, they reduce the number of stock. And then what that implies is that the stock price becomes very expensive for you and I. So if you did that, you have a 1% excise tax on company stock buy. Or if you did that, 1% excise tax as a penalty. There is also an increase. IRS is increasing $80 billion in the next 10 years within the IRS. So they are investing $80 billion in the IRS. The question is, what is that for? They are hiring 87,000 new compliance officers within the IRS. 87,000 compliance officers. That is really where it affects you and I. What does that mean? That means that audits would increase significantly, because now that all this money is going out and they're expecting to get $258 billion out of this, they think, the thought is that many people are not paying their fair share in taxes. If we put more compliance officers in there, we are going to do more audits. As a result of that, we're going to get more money. So guys, what does that mean for us? That means that we have to be careful, because there is more likelihood that we may be audited when we prepare our taxes. Another thing is tax compliance enforcements. So it is expected, just the tax compliance enforcements alone, as part of that $258 billion, they are expecting tax compliance to bring about $124 billion. $124 billion. It's more than half of the expectation of more than half of the tax income will come from compliance, from audits. So the whole of this, one of the big areas also was that extension of the extended limitation on pass-through business losses used as write-offs. This is a big one, because most of these big boys who have been making money who have these significant losses, especially in the real estate investors. They invest money in real estate, and then they have all these losses that have been taken through depreciation, through cost segregation, through use of debt and things like that. They have all these huge losses. The bill has always allowed them, and this is a big one, it's always allowed them to be able to take up to $250,000 of those losses and write them against their wages, against their other income. So that will make them pass through income. Pass-through losses will come and wipe up all the losses, all the income that they made otherwise. Now, the new rule is saying that, okay, we're going to disallow those pass-through owners from using this against this income, from using pass-through income to this. This is a significant one, and I think we can talk about it. This year with inflation, they're talking about the amount is $270,000 that you can basically take off from your investment income and then write off against all your other income, including wages. But that one is specifically, the law disallows that pass-through owners from using that, which is a big one. So other things that we'll look at this law that has been next, we were waiting for, there was a strong push for wages for the carried interest loophole. Carried interest loophole, what does that mean? It means that for those investment managers who are helping manage your funds, managing your portfolios, what happened for them was that all their income was considered capital gain, and it was being taxed at capital gains in tax rate. Now what it does is that instead of taxing it at capital gains tax rate, they are saying that no, you cannot tax that at a capital gains tax rate. You will only have to tax that at ordinary income tax rate. So instead of taxing it at a maximum of 20%, it's going out to 37%. That's a big. What else? No paid family leave. Okay, people were expecting that family and sick leave was going to be here. It's not here. There's been no extension of the child tax credit. People were expecting that enhanced child tax credit of $3,600 and $3,000 was going to remain. It's no longer there. I think these are some of the key areas. These are some of the key changes in the law, and we can talk about this. Remember, this provision, this tax bill, is more than 1,000 pages fine prints. So we just went in there and then we took the key ones that will affect us. We are still looking at this bill. There might be some that we have not yet gone through, but remember, this bill will be law next week, and it becomes the law of the land. This is what is going to affect your taxes, and that is why we thought that it was so important for us to talk about it today. Thank you very much, and remember, we are still having our conference next week. It's next month, and that is a big conference. We want to take all of these things, talk about things that really matter to you, small businesses. How can I really optimize my business? How can I grow my business? How can I take my business to the next level? We are compounding, we're putting together all this knowledge that we've been putting together, and we're bringing it down to a conference that we're having next month. Details are being provided to you. We're going to send out, you will see flyers of that conference, and I'm calling on everyone to subscribe to that conference. It's almost a free conference. It's almost free. Our cost is almost near to nothing. Just like we've been giving our information for free, we want to be able to pull together as much as 500 people within the hall, so that we can talk among ourselves. We can build a business. We can help build one another. We are here to build our community. We are here to take advantage of this America. We're here to take advantage of every credible incentive that is out there. We know those incentives, and we want to share them with you. Follow us on Instagram for any of these, so that you can be aware of every material that we throw out there. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook. We are here just to give very important material for free. I want to thank you, and you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.